have these notes, which were the last notes we did last class. I would take those out, that way you can follow along. If you want to solve by graphing in your calculator, go ahead and grab your calculator as well. As we're solving it, if you would rather solve it by substitution or elimination, then you don't really need your calculator. As with any word problem, you should read through it, find anything that's important. So I'm going to quickly read through it. And I don't know plants, so I don't know if I'm saying these correctly. So if you do know plants, correct me if I'm wrong. Emily and Wilbur each improved their yards by planting hostas and geraniums. They bought their supplies from the same store. Emily spent $153 on 12 hostas and 11 geraniums. Wilbur spent $103 on 7 hostas and 11 geraniums. What is the cost of 1 hosta and the cost of 1 geranium? So important things. She spent this total on 12 hostas and 11 geraniums. He spent $103 on 7 hostas and 11 geraniums. It's asking us to find the cost of 1 hosta and the cost of 1 geranium. The 2 things they ask you to find are the 2 things you don't know, so those 2 things are going to be your 2 variables. Call them H and G, X and Y, whatever you want. If you call them H and G later, because we're doing a graphing example, we'll have to change it to X and Y, but that's fine. And being specific when you're defining these, cost of a hosta. We'll have to pull it up later. So we have our variables defined. Now we need our 2 equations. We know our totals, 103, 153. And we know that the amount spent, that total spent, comes from the number of plants they both bought times the cost of each plant. So that would be 12 times the cost plus 11 times the cost to equal that 153. And then we would do the same thing for Wilbur. It would be 7H plus 11G. Remember that most of these are good elimination problems, but that doesn't mean you can't solve them other ways. So we're going to solve it by graphing. If we solve these by graphing, we need the variables X and Y because our calculators don't like other variables. Does not matter which one you choose to be X or Y, but keep them consistent. So we're going to rewrite them, and I'm also running out of space. Sometimes it doesn't. So this would be 12x plus 11y equals 153. And 7x plus 11y equals 103. We are then going to solve both equations so that they're in slope-intercept form. So subtract 12x. I'm going to kind of do this simultaneously. So this one would be 11y equals 153 minus 12x. This one would be 11y equals 103 minus 7x. And then we would divide everything by 11. So our two new equations would be y equals, I'm going to leave these as fractions. You can switch these two if you want. Not necessary. So all of that needs to be done before you even touch your calculator. They have to be in slope-intercept form before you can put them in your calculator. Once you have your two equations in, well, mine are not in slope-intercept form, but you could easily switch these two and they would be that. But once you have them in y equals, you can put them in your calculator. I should probably write them down because I'm not going to remember what they are. You're going to go into your y equals. If there's anything there, you're going to clear it out. And then put in whichever equation, use your fraction bar, alpha y equals, to get n over b. 153 over 11 minus fraction bar again, alpha y equals, to get n over b, 12 over 11 x. And then I'm going to do the same thing and graph the other one. Alpha y equals 103 over 11 minus alpha y equals 7 over 11 x. Once you have both of them in your y equals, you're going to hit graph. If you see where they intersect in this area, then you're good. I can like kind of see it, but not exactly. So I'm going to zoom, fit, zoom, and I'm going to scroll down until I see zoom fit, which is 0.
It's you do a y equals, and you put it in, and then
Kind of didn't work. Graph it. If you see that they intersect within your window, then you don't need to do what I just did. The zoom fit didn't work for me, so I'm going to zoom out. Both of those work. You can zoom in, zoom out, zoom fit, zoom standard, any of those work.
So you do the y equals, and then you put in the equation, and then
Graph.
Okay.
Marta, you had a question. To this window,
Yeah.
hit graph.
And then
If you see that they intersect, you don't need to zoom in, out, anything. If you don't see that they intersect, you have to zoom in, out, however, to make it fit. Then you need to find your intersection, which is in calculate above trace, the second trace. When you're in second trace, you go down to intersect because you're looking for where they cross.
but where do you go?
Second trace. And all of these buttons are down here. It'll ask you for first curve. Your cursor should be on one of those lines. Hit enter. It'll ask you for second curve. Your cursor should be on the second line. Hit enter. you don't want to guess, you want the calculator to do the work, so hit enter again. And it will tell you the intersection is at 10:30. So you would write that down as part of your answer. Wow. But because our original variables were not x and y, we need to change that back to what they originally were. Our x was h, and we were looking for the cost of, so our units would be dollars. Our y was g, and we were looking for cost of, so those would be our final answers. So if you were solving by graphing, the most work I would need to see is you converting the equations to slope-intercept form, and then finding your intersection and telling me what those mean. Do we have other questions on that one? Marta? This, the order pair? Yeah. You have to go into the second trace to find the intersection. And then hit enter 3 times. I would have to look at it. The only reason it would say error is if you don't have lines that intersect in your window. Do we have other problems we're going to go through, had a question about on Delta Math, Khan Academy, notes? I'm going to come look at your calculator in a second. So your quiz is going to be on, it has 4 sections. 1, can you graph systems of equations, just regular equations? 2, can you solve systems by substitution? 3, can you solve systems by elimination? And 4 are your word problems where you have a choice as to how you wish to solve them. Anyone have any last minute questions before I let you practice for a little bit before lunch? Until we go to lunch, you have this time to practice, ask any questions you have. When we come back from lunch, you guys can put your cell phones in the calculator pockets and we'll start that quiz.